I'm here with John Tucker from the Memorial University of Newfoundland. John, thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
So you have the honor of being distinguished as a teacher at Memorial, correct?
I sure do. I was selected from amongst my peers in 2012 to win the President's Award for Distinguished Teaching.
And was that for one particular item, or?
There was one showcase item. In particular, I built an online delivery, which I highlighted in my dossier, which involved a whole suite of content, which I delivered using interactive videos. This was pre-Möbius, but using a different software now. And also a whole suite of online evaluation as part of the delivery, which was Maple TA.
Okay, well, congratulations. You were sort of an early mover in this field.
I was. It was an interesting time. I did a lot of work on it, and that was really the interesting thing. And it was kind of funny because at the time it seemed there was a bit of a movement where people were sort of considering being a good teacher and winning an award of that type was something akin to winning a popularity contest. And this course is pretty tough. So a lot of people who get through it, they all come out and they say, "Oh my gosh, I got so much out of that course." And but there are unfortunately a number of failures almost every term. But what I did through my delivery, my evolution of the delivery, I should say, was I really dropped the attrition rate in that course.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say it's an open question. Excuse me. I do come from an era where engineering. In fact, I remember my first introductory lecture welcoming to the University of Waterloo in engineering. And I believe the professor said, "Okay, say hello to the person on your left and your right, because they probably will not be here at the end of the year." Now,
Yes.
we have become a little bit more humane, since that point.
Yes.
But there is something about having a bar. You want to make sure people don't fall below for the wrong reasons, but there is something about having a hurdle to get over.
Well, and it's significant and actually imposed at the Marine Institute. The fact of the matter is our programs, a couple of the programs that I teach in, are certified by Transport Canada. And they very clearly lay out, it's dictated to Transport Canada, who lay it out for us, exactly what is to be taught and to what degree it's supposed to be evaluated, taxonomy and teaching points. And that is because the IMO specify what is to be, how a marine engineer, let's say, is to be trained and to what degree. And so it's very carefully regulated.
Yeah, more of a regulated industry than some education.
And furthermore, and I can cite very clear examples.
I'm wondering if that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether you interpret that as positive or negative.
It's not easy, but as an engineer, and I'm not your average engineer, but as an engineer, there's a time when...
No engineer is average in his own mind, by the way.
Absolutely. But as an engineer, there's a time, and I tell my students this, when the right answer must actually be given to me. I mean, the right answer is the most important thing. And in education, in old school face-to-face, in engineering education and in other forms of it, we have de-emphasized the right answer. A student will give me a test with not a single right answer on it, and I look and I say, "Oh, you did a little mistake in this question, you did a little mistake in that question." And I'll give them most of the part mark, because there's only one mistake.
Oh, and by the way, the bridge fell down.
And by the way, the bridge fell down. And so what I've done is I have re-emphasized the right answer. Now, there's a time and a place for everything. And when I give my students assignments, take-home assignments, and they have, well, a time frame, but it's really unlimited time as far as I'm concerned. I tell them I need you to put the right answer in or you're not getting the marks. But when they write a test or a final exam, then I'll go back to the old school method and give them the part marks based on their
method,
procedure.
how they approached it. I agree. There's value, or there's good and bad points to both methods.
Yes.
Maybe let's back up a bit. I wanted to hear more about Memorial University and and your approach to online or e-learning, online education.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think many of our people listening probably are not overly familiar. So a bit more about your university and background.
Sure. Well, I am with the Marine Institute, which is a part of Memorial University. Originally the Marine Institute was a college, but was absorbed into the university in 1984.
Okay.
And in so doing became able to grant degrees.
Mm-hmm.
But originally, and to this day, when a person graduates with a marine engineering program, or from a marine engineering program, or a nautical science program, they get a diploma. And what we do is we offer an additional year of distance study.
Oh, interesting.
Which was determined via a gap analysis. So students can do all this work online, essentially, and basically take the courses that would top them up to a degree.
Is this the reason that you're more attuned to online e-learning? Or?
Originally, I've actually kind of backed a little bit out of the delivery of that suite of courses, and I've been sort of refocused on a new form of the online delivery, or a new reason for it, which is Mariner Certificate Advancement. So there are people who are out in the industry and they're working, and before they can go and get their next level of certification, they have to write a set of exams. And we provide the courses that prepare them for those exams. And those we've prepared now, and we're the only ones to be doing it by distance. And so I've incorporated.
And these are people on ships, so I'm assuming they have to be taking it at their own.
Not only that, but industry demand is through the roof. I mean, it's hard to get people to go into the field of marine engineering or nautical science. So there's a huge industry demand for these guys, and because there's a shortage, companies, although they need these people to advance in certification, find it really hard to let them leave for
of course,
4 months,
yeah.
Because they can't backfill them. So the answer is a distance asynchronous delivery.
Very good.
Yeah.
What is the student population?
At the Marine Institute, our total population is on the order of 1,100 at our main campus. We have a couple of satellites, and we offer short courses as well. The university, Memorial University, on its main campus, total population is on the order of about 18,000.
Okay. Okay, so back to sort of e-learning and e-education. Really interested to hear your views on what you feel is important and where you feel the technology is today and where you feel it's going to.
Well, I'll tell you, when I started, originally I was pushed into a scenario where I was told you have to teach these guys by distance back in around 2000. And they gave me a stack of CDs that were professionally prepared, and they had some notes, basically handwritten notes that the students would read through. They had some short movie clips in there, narrated by a professional actor, and they had static examples. And the CD wasn't that great. I mean, it didn't work in all operating systems. It was buggy to start with. But my task was to service the people who were working through the content in the CD. And they had a textbook as well. But what I found was that these guys, they had a lot of trouble, quite honestly. And I had a picture in my head, way back then, of being able to produce something a little bit better by virtue of content delivery. But I knew what these guys were doing to prepare for the exam. And to prepare for the exam, they would basically bang away at questions. I mean, they'd go through all the questions in the book, and they would do them again and again and again, which I thought was okay, but, was problematic. I mean, the fact was they knew that the answer to this particular question was 7. And they kind of lost track of, the mechanics of getting to 7 very often. So I had a picture in my head. I mean, I was creating variations at that point of questions using Excel. And so I whip out different types of
Brute
questions.
force method, but
It was a lot of work, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. But I hunted around, and I think it was 2003 or 2004.
I just want to stop because I want to just be clear. Were you saying that, because I'm definitely a firm believer that applying concepts via questions is key to the learning process. In
Yes.
fact, and I'm just wondering if you're saying that there are situations where that is not true.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that, doing the same question over and over again,
Yeah, that would be a...
that is not the same as basically trying the same question and having to be careful and make sure you get the calculations right.
I see.
Some people memorize.
Yes, okay,
these
now
guys.
I fully understand that.
Yeah. So these guys would have a question, and they may have heard from a friend perhaps that this question had been on an exam, and they would go and they would learn that question. And although they understood that question, they didn't understand the concept
Well,
behind the
and
question.
how to apply that concept for a variety of... I mean, that's the key.
Right. So I had stuff I was working with in Excel. I had this vision, in particular, of some software that could provide variations of questions. It was really, really important to me from an engineering perspective that we would be able to provide diagrams as part of our question, ideally with numbers that would change with the questions as they changed. And way back when, I think it was 2003 or 2004, I heard about Maple TA. I was just searching. And
Came
I
out in
found it.
2003, so it'd be about that. That would
Yeah.
probably be an early version.
And back then I went to my boss and I said, I've got to get this thing. And they said, well, I don't know if we can get it for you right now, budgetary restraint and all that sort of stuff. And so I just was really I had it in my mind. I wanted it. Anyway, I think it was 3 years later, I applied for and got a grant, an instructional development grant at the university. I made the case and got $5,000, and I brought the software in for a year, and or I think it was maybe 2 years with that money. But I started working with it and proved the point, and it was so successful. And I was using it in my face-to-face deliveries too, not without problems. There's always growing pains, right? But
Software's never done, unfortunately.
well, and it's tough, I mean, you get a new software and you're all alone, you don't really know what you're doing, and you have nobody to talk. I mean, the guys at MapleSoft were awesome. You'd phone them up and they'd help you work it through, but I'm over on the rock and you're over here. And,
Yeah, it's a half-hour difference, so...
yeah, an hour and a half, actually. But anyway, I pounded out a bunch of examples and worked out how to have students work through them and use them to good effect. And in actual fact, MapleSoft changed the software a little bit to accommodate some requests of mine. I don't know if I was the only one asking or not. I like to think I was, but as a testing software, would always, if you had 5 questions in it, would always make you do the 5 questions again. And my students were saying, "Come on, sir, I got
3 for it. Yeah,
I got
the
3
first
right. Give me a break, right?"
Yeah.
So I was talking to the guys, and then lo and behold, the hotfix came out, and they had this carryover credit. So if you got the first 3 questions right, you didn't have to do them again. And then it turned from a Maple testing application or whatever it is to a teaching device. So my students, what I would do is I would use it for assignments, which were graded, and they got a mark for it. And after the assignment was over, when we were students, one of the most glorious things, if you could somehow get a copy of it or even just a sheet from it, was the solution manual from a textbook, right? Because you'd see
I'm sure
these,
that never really happened, but yeah.
no, it never happened. But I heard of people who actually got access to this thing, and you know, if you just had the textbook, you'd see the questions, and then you'd see the final answers, and you'd try, and you'd be that guy who got the little thing wrong, and you say, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" You don't know if you're completely off or if you're just really close or what. Anyway.
Let me give you a quick example. One time I had an open book exam in engineering, and the night before I had pulled out an old exam and did like one of the questions randomly. And that exact same question was on the exam. I remember it was open book, so I wasn't cheating in any way. But as I'm copying my exact answer onto my exam paper, I think, should I be hiding this?
Well, I mean, hey, you're playing with the rules. That's all I can say. But what I had a vision of was giving my students, basically giving them an online version of this teaching manual. Because I didn't find it. I heard that people found that this was very beneficial. I mean, it helped them to practice stuff. So after the assignment was submitted, I would take those same questions and I would make them available in practice mode. I don't save any results. And I tell my students, listen, I don't save anything. It's not worth anything. But in case you want to use it to help sort of brush up before the test, there's the questions. And now I've got this feedback, which you'll get, and it shows a completely detailed, worked out solution exactly as I presented it in class.
You're not alone, by the way. Many professors have found that offering mock examinations with Maple TA for no marks have a much higher participation rate than you would expect. And we were surprised as well. Like for a long time, the wisdom was, give them a small mark, to encourage, but it's not necessarily required.
To your point, in actual fact, what I found was, and this is how the course evaluations were when I was in school. An instructor would give out an assignment of a few questions, 5, however many questions, from the back of a textbook, and as a class full of students, we'd get together. I mean, it's no secret. You can ask my peers. We'd get together and we say, well, listen, we've got 6 assignments due this week. Let's do the statics one tonight. We get together in a classroom and we'd work this out until 2 or 3 of us got it right, and then somebody sort of put it up on the board and we say, oh, that's what I was doing wrong. Okay, yeah, right. And as an instructor, I remember the instructor saying, listen, if you want to get full benefit from this, you should really try to do it alone, right? And I understood that, but the instructors knew that we were working collaboratively.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure I would agree with that concept. I mean, I think working in a group.
I'm not saying it was good.
No, I'm saying I am actually saying that I think it can be good.
Well, yes. And so what happened was the instructors knew we were doing this, and occasionally somebody would make a little mistake, and it would sort of trickle through, and we'd all have this mistake. 4 or 5 of us would have the mistake in our submission. So they knew we were. So what the response was, they would, in the course evaluation, they'd make the assignments worth some minimal amount, like 5%. So each assignment was worth like 0.4 or something to that effect. When I since I've done set my assignments up in Maple TA, every student gets a different version.
The randomization, yeah. Same questions, same concept, but slight randomization.
Yes. And, I mean, quite easily I set them up with like 200,000 permutations.
Yep.
So I walk in and I say, listen, guys, I've done 2 things. I'm going to do 2 things now. Firstly, I'm going to tell you, I want you to work together. Please, help each other. But realize that if you get if the answer to your question is 7, it's probably not the answer to his question. That's the first thing. And what the second thing is, I'm making the assignments now worth 20%. So, it wasn't that fast. Initially, I just told them work together. And what I found was the students, a lot of them, like the really good students, the keen, hard-working students, they did the assignments anyway. They do them regardless. But a lot of the students would realize, oh man, I got to work this out.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them stopped doing assignments. I mean, and I was like looking at it, I said, why didn't you put it in? It's easy marks. They said, well, it's not worth it. So after an iteration or two of that, it didn't take that long for me, I hope. I went through the process of changing the evaluation scheme through our undergraduate studies. Mm-hmm. And I changed the value of assignments like 20%. And then I walked in, I said, okay, there you go. It's worth 20%. Don't do it if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
I'm sure you had 100% pickup on that.
Well, I give them multiple attempts. So what I say is, listen, the purpose of the assignment is not free marks. I mean, you're going to work for it, right? But it is a teaching tool. If you do this, you have a very, if you put your time in and do your work and you're judicious about it, I mean, theoretically, I guess somebody could pay someone else to do it, but it's not very likely. Mm-hmm. But you're going to do this work. And furthermore, you're probably going to do better. And indeed, and I think I'm going to write a paper on this, but I've seen the marks in these courses go up.
Yeah, and you should write a paper on it. I mean, it's exactly...
And you know, but it's funny because the initial knee-jerk reaction from the students was, come on, man, you're making us do work, right? And I said, well, it's like Buckley's mixture. It tastes bad, but it's good for you.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Funny, I just had a conversation with someone about, the gamification of learning.
Yes.
And there's two ways of viewing it. One is wonderful, and the other one is you're trying to trick students into learning without any effort. But
yes.
I'm the old school. I believe that some work should be involved. Like, I mean, I definitely could be proved either way. Mm-hmm. I saw some stats and some analytics that it works. But I like the concept of, yes, you have to work for your mark. And
it's tough. I'll tell you, I mean, there's things that I'm still figuring out being on an island. And I will say that initially I was pretty much alone.
It's a big island, though.
It's a big island. I've got some friends over there, too, now, who have, for lack of a better term, drank the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. And there's a group of us now, and it's growing. We've adopted an odd little sandbox mentality where we write something and we share it freely, and we invite others to use it if they can. And people are going and say, "Are you sure?" And I'll say, "Yeah, just if you write anything, make sure we can have."
Perfect. I mean, that's what we're trying to encourage.
Yeah. And it's starting kind of like in our little bubble, but I mean, we're seeing what you guys are doing, and it with the cloud. And initially, I mean, everybody, all faculty are kind of guarded. They must protect my academic materials. This is my bread and butter. I mean, the old line, "Oh gosh, you're gonna. This tool is going to put me out of a job."
Yeah,
right?
that is the most ridiculous concept. I mean, it's not uncommon that people say it, but we're social animals. We learn because we have someone who's teaching us, who cares about our progress. That's, in good teaching, that is never going to disappear. Yes, content can be better. Maybe content can be more effective in communicating. I do think testing is, embeds a concept, but instructors that care about the content and actually keep on improving it and iterating it will always be part of the equation.
I'll tell you, there's always challenges. I mean, what I'm finding now is, and it's getting easier because of the propagation of the technology, and the fact that it's not just me anymore. But initially, when I introduced it, I mean, it was a bunch of senior students who were taking a class, and they were conditioned, to the old school method, and all of a sudden, everybody had to do their own assignment, and it basically it was horrible. What I've done since then is I've got other people teaching with this, more courses that are being taught, and as an example now, we've also introduced a WMIS course. Mm-hmm. Every student has to take, post-secondary student has to do a WMIS course, and we've adopted a delivery model based loosely on something called the Keller Plan, which is a mastery mode of learning, where people go through a course, an online delivery, and they can do it asynchronously, so they get this thing out of the way. You have to have the women's course.
Competency-based learning,
Has to be done before their first lab. And, right now, this same WHMIS course, well, not the same WHMIS course, but a WHMIS course is being offered to the rest of the students in Memorial. And we have our own version, which includes Maple TA. And the rest of the university is looking very carefully and talking very strongly about adopting our model.
Because we have to teach WHMIS at companies as well. We should use your course. I wanted to jump back, though, just briefly to your sandbox concept. I think we're right on the edge of having analytics and statistics on the use of content, which makes the sharing that much more powerful.
Yes.
You can look at a piece of content and you can see how it's been used and see stats on it. Do you agree? Do you think that will encourage the sharing of content?
From where I come from, I actually believe so. I'll tell you, we're a bit unique in some ways.
My heritage is Newfoundland, by the way, so I understand what you mean exactly.
Well, and on top of that, the Marine Institute itself, where we were a college and we were absorbed into the university, we're actually not in the main MUN faculty association. We have our own, and they have different rules. So you have, I think it's 2 years to complete at least a post-secondary, vocational post-secondary certificate, and they encourage you to do a degree. So every one of us have done courses in education, which is kind of rare actually in the post-secondary world. So we understand the statistics and the value of the statistics because we've all done it. So we understand what a p-biserial means. And having a question that isn't always answered right, or isn't always answered correctly by only the top half,
and knowing the amount of time that's taken on it,
it all has extraordinary value. Now, historically, and we all have this database, this box actually, of paper tests, and a lot of us use questions that we pull out of there, and that's a good question, and you're just using your gut.
Exactly, and I think we can do better with that. I think there's a lot of examples.
Yes.
We can do a lot better with data.
So we've started looking at some of the statistics. Of some of our questions that we've been using, because we've been using Maple TA now for a number of years, but it's just still a small group of us, and but it's starting to really resonate that we can actually do much better. It's kind of funny because it's something else the students won't necessarily like so much in some ways.
The object is to give them a great education. The object is not to make them happy. So
they're happy when I've had many students, and this is one of the reasons for the award. Students who get through the course, their a very common comment is, "Gosh, I got a lot out of that."
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want to hear.
That's what I mean, but. It was a gimme course. You don't
want to hear that.
Not really, no.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So is there anything else? Thank you very much for your use of TA, and you've definitely been sort of a pioneer with it and has helped the development throughout. Is there anything else that you would like to say and sort of close it?
What I would like to say is, that people have to open their minds. I think that the key to successful adoption of this is to not necessarily try to do it alone.
And not all at the same time.
Yeah, there's a community, right? And I've met so many people here at the summit. There's people back home. One thing that I'm hoping happens is we create connections and we share our experiences. We figure out how to conquer our little problems and recognize that, if somebody else has done this before, maybe I could help them and they could help me in the future, and we all make this work a little better.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the talk.
Thank you very much.